Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Center for Black Visual Culture at the Institute of African American Affairs. My name is Khalila Abdurazak. I'm the program manager here at the CBVC. On behalf of our director, Dr. Deborah Willis, and our program director, Dr. Joan Morgan, thank you for joining us tonight in person and online for an intimate conversation with Felipe Luciano. We are thrilled to be here with you all. Now, our program director, Dr. Joan Morgan, will introduce our distinguished guests and tell you more about tonight's event.
Thank you, Khalila. Wow, welcome. This is our last event at the Center for the spring. Our last domestic event. Our next set of events are in Italy next month at the Venice Biennale. We'll be doing the Black Portraitures Conference, and we are at the opening of the Biennale, which we are incredibly excited about. So again, I am Dr. Joan Morgan. I'm the program director here at the Center for Black Visual Culture at the Institute for African American Affairs here at NYU. It is such a pleasure and an honor to welcome these two guests, Felipe Luciano. That's so your fault, Bentley. Private joke. We were just talking about the difference between it in Spanish and Italian, and the joke was,
it's an Italian name.
Don't say it in Italian, and of course, that's what I did. I just got my beginner Italian certificate today, so maybe that's why. And Bentley Brown, who is my fellow NYU alum, and sometimes my friend, clearly not today, but and the Center for Black Visual Culture for a discussion on Luciano's memoir, Flesh, Spirit, Confessions of a Young Lord. You have such a long, rich history in New York. I won't hit the long so hard. Just really, and so much of what the center is an archive for that history and the preservation of that history, and making sure that as we move forward, that we really do remember the foundation that we stand on. The Institute for African American Affairs is over 50 years old, and so we have a really thriving archive. But as New Yorkers also, we want to just remember the city and who helped to shape it and shape us. So this is really a pleasure. So following tonight's discussion, there will be a Q&A and a book signing. And I'm going to read very brief versions of these illustrious bios. Felipe Luciano is an Emmy Award-winning journalist, a news anchor, and former adjunct professor at Fordham University. He is the co-founder and chairman of the Young Lords Party, a member of the original Last Poets, an advocate for interethnic communication, and the host of Latin Roots, a Latino music program in New York City. A talented diversity speaker, Luciano is committed to community empowerment, ethnic pride, and civil rights. He is a regular contributor to many New York area newspapers and magazines, including the New York Times and Essence. His poetry has appeared in anthologies such as Puerto Rican Poetry, an anthology from Aboriginal to contemporary time. Bentley Brown is a multidisciplinary artist, curator, and doctoral candidate at the Institute of Fine Arts here at NYU, and is based in the Bronx, New York, and Phoenix, Arizona. His dissertation project at the Institute explores the pioneering role of Black artists and Black creative spaces within New York City's contemporary arts movements of the late 60s through the mid-1980s, when Soho was a very different Soho. In his artistic practice, inspired by African-American cultural production, abstract and figurative expressionist approaches to artistic process, and the desert landscape of his native Phoenix, Brown uses the medium of canvas, found objects, photo collage, and film to explore themes of Black identity, cosmology, and American interculturalism. Brown is an adjunct professor of art history at Fordham University and Parsons School of Design. And now, I hope that you will give a healthy round of applause. So without further ado, we can welcome our distinguished guests. Thank you. Can you put it back in?
Thank you. I didn't come here to preach. I didn't even come here to inspire. I would just like you to understand that my life has been a series of revelatory experiences that has made me really fall in love with Blackness. I am a Black Puerto Rican raised poor. And when I say poor, I mean gut bucket. No milk, no butter, no anything. And the people I learned to love and admire were those South Carolinian blacks. Indeed. Who said, whatever you need, baby, you come here. You come here and you eat because your lips are white, your breath is bad, and you're obviously hungry. I'll never forget them. The daughter of one of them is over here, Poochie, Verda Mae Grosner.
Verda Mae Grosner, it's my mother's birthday, by the way. Dr. Verda Mae Grosner, our brother, it's her birthday. Happy birthday, Mommy.
Thank you, baby.
She would have been 35 again.
So that people have often asked me, how is it that as a Puerto Rican, you feel this way? And there's something that happens when you begin to hang with, be with, make love to, and be made and be loved by people from another culture. You just fall in love with them. I didn't have to be told that black people are beautiful. They showed it by how they fed me, by how they fought with me. I could have been killed a few times, they didn't do that. By how they taught me how to love God and man. Black people have a faith that is astounding. Never in my life have I seen black people love the way they love. You see, Puerto Ricans have a multicultural background. Ours is European, Native American, and black. The Native American part wants to kill. It says, no, espérate. Take them off. The European part of us wants to kill. But I've often said this, what has saved black people in the New World is faith. What has saved Latinos and Puerto Ricans is family. If we can keep that together, if we can bring those two essences together, we will have really made a big difference in this country. The other thing that saved me was that my rage was so uncontrollable. It was a black woman, my second mother, Catherine Keels, who told me, baby, don't get mad at these folks, they cheering. These are cheering. Why are you getting mad at them? These are children. And we're here to teach them how to live, how to grow the hell up. It's amazing coming from a woman who went through the ravages of racism in South Carolina. She was a Geechee. I'll start with the poem. I can tell you when I went black, back before I was gushed into her, the feeling, the memory, I know what they did, know why they scared of me, you see. I know the bottom of that shit-filled, vomit dried on my feet slave ship. I don't have to think or read or be erudite. Nothing, no words can read the story, tell the tale of horror. Holocaust? At least that branch of kinfolk can talk about it. Make evil someone you can touch, maybe kill, maybe. But who be the real blues people? Who know the whiplash, the caked blood, the branded testicles? Who do? Excuse me. I be reeking with murder, so they say, it's better I stay high, because when I catch a wink of solid sleep, breathe something other than projects and poverty, I start to remember the memory. Who did the doo-doo? Who shat on us and called me lazy, because I was too weak to wash it off, massa. Can't even shake my feet. Ankle cuffs too tight, sir. Can't feel my feet. Don't whip me no more. I don't know Puerto Rican. It was where I landed, where I be sold. I know Congo. Perfectly round, tightly napped heads and laughter in a hut surrounded by tall grass and elephants who know better than to get too close. I don't know Puerto Rican. I know before I got here, there, Monk knew, Roy Haynes knows, Kane knows, and it's driven him damn near crazy. Satchmo knew well enough to try to not let you know by bumbling in rhythm to shit Baldwin said to your face. Died believing some of you motherfuckers are salvageable. How are we so bebop beautiful with all these lashes across our face? Why we still walk like we own the block, the day and the night? Why we still fight these cave dwellers even after they cuff us, crack our heads? We still be talking shit like, so what? Round midnight is my time. Can you get to that? Fuck swing bands. Fuck swing. Machito is why I am and you ain't. Ooh blah blah do. Ooh blah blah de. Tuleco sacude. Ain't nothing rich about this Puerto Rico. Have you lost your mind? Did your straight hair straighten you out? Ay Jose, así no es. Most of you, most deaf by now, and you never really listen to them. You belong to slickness and forest flowers. But can't be, maybe won't be, I should have done this before, maybe won't be as slick as Charles Lloyd laughing at you. Don't take 5, take 6. And remember matanzas, morovis, macumba, the mambo of your mother. I will not be them ever. I know it, knew it before I met my grandmother, Enigma Rivera, Jimmy Sabater. Hitting us we didn't have to invent. It'd be in us like the night in Tunisia. And while we miles ahead, we still pulling that load of strange fruit, Hibaro. Why we be so beautiful with so much funk, punk? That's why you chase Amiri, make Amina cry, get nervous. You will pay for that. You will pay for Puente being crowned king and given no chair at Harvard. And no millions to do any fucking thing he wants to do other than be stupid. Rolling Stones my ass, be Springsteen, be Jocko, be Jerry, be Jackie McLean or Wilson, but be more than a spiritual Indian sucker. And stop praying up. Stop it. Pray in and then punch with the force of the faith you were destined with before you became this. Pray for Palmieri and a new song, different. So rappers can hear rap brown about blackness and marksmanship and only pulling it out when you're ready to bomba all that's ugly about Borinquen. Boricua! Malcolm Bellett, you've been had, you've been took, you've been shook and bamboozled, and you broke and still think you still think James Brown and Willie Bobo are brothers from another mother. Listen, Blackie, better get this. Maybe nobody told you after you were dropped off in Sabana Grande or Savannah. Your real father, you ready for this? Your real father, get to this now, stay with me, is Mongo Santa Maria. Monk is still laughing and Macho wishes he had lived long enough to wrap the real Babalu around your neck and charm you into murdering that thought that madness makes you think you're white, make you think you can pass, that you can play Monopoly, their game and not go to jail. Wake up! Wake up, African. You're losing more than the Sudan. Before Islam, before Moses, before Christ, you were already planned to do great black things, human things. How long before you listen to Ella and get sassy? You need to get saved. You need to save the planet, to save your savior. Who be you? So you won't have to look back, stay back anymore. I love what you are, and that's all there is to this blue train of thought. I'm waiting. Fuck you, white boy, you will never win. We can kill you, but at this rate of loss of respect, of lies and brutality, you will kill yourself. And jihadists will have nothing to do with it. Genocide is what you started. Genocide will be your fate. Pack up Pacheco and tell Frenchie and Sabu what Frankie Lyman asked rhetorically at the tender age of 13. Why do fools fall in love? I'm waiting. Get ready, because here I come. Thank you. Hello. I'm sorry, I didn't take the staple off. I should have rehearsed that poem before I read it like that.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
It was so much. Thank you so much.
Okay. Can everybody hear me okay? Yeah?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
But I don't know about the Zoom people.
Yeah, maybe. How's that? Yeah. Hearing my own voice is weird. Thank you, Felipe. I wanted to sort of dive right into some questions. For folks who have read this book, I'm sure you might agree with me that music is sort of the rhythm throughout this entire narrative of Felipe's life. Even in sort of the harshest moments of the book, music and art and poetry and just beauty is a part of every single part of this. So my first question for you is, how do you think your predilection for art, which is something that resounds through the entire book, where Felipe is always thinking about something that's artistic, it seems. How does your predilection for art, or how did it inform your activism? How does it continue to inform your activism?
Art expands your consciousness. It says that you can dream. It says that you don't have to go with the status quo. It says that you can be sharp and grounded at the same time. If you lived in Harlem in the 50s and 60s, I saw black people come out with the most outlandish colors. I mean, it was weird. And yet, they did it with such aplomb, with such confidence, that you had to give it to them. Puerto Ricans coming out with polka dots and stripes. Who the hell thought of that? Now, Dolce and Gabbana do that normally. And we pay thousands of dollars for that. All of that stuff that you see now in Paris came straight out of Puerto Rico, came straight out of El Barrio. Black folk have always had a sense of style and elan. And so I grew up with knowing, somehow I knew, when I first went to see Pollock, I took my son with me, and I was trying to explain to my son the art of texture in painting. Something I loved about his father, who also believed in texture and sculpting the paint. You don't just put paint on a canvas, you sculpt it. So when I dream, it scares me because my dreams go so far out. I've had to pull myself back, by the way. Felipe, you're going a little too far now. It's a little too quick. Tú estás loco ahora. Take it easy. Take it easy. Art allows you to drop the shackles. And it seems the more oppressed we are as a people, the more aesthetic we become. I've never understood that. The Harlem Renaissance was insane. People were getting lynched every day. But look at the art that came out of there. Look at the art that came out of the 60s. Oppression just makes us, it's like the pressure makes the diamonds. The pressure makes the diamonds. So for me, the Lords came out of my intense fear, insecurity, hanging with people like Guyland Kane, Verda May, Amiri Baraka, Stokely Carmichael, Rap Brown. You couldn't get away from it. Ellis Hazlett was another guy who was a revolutionary. In those days, it was, you were proud to be black because you had a movement that supported you. So I always liked people who knew how to put together colors. Always liked that. And we knew the ones who were bound for conformity because they always wore monochromatic stuff, you know? Black suits, nice ties. Come on, man, cut this shit out. You're from 112th Street. But don't sleep on those either, because as Rap Brown told me, just because they sit by the door doesn't mean they're conformists. You need them too. So art lifted me up, inspired me. Oh, I was telling you about Jackson Pollock. I take my son to the Museum of Modern Art, and there was a group that was being tutored by one of the guides, and I didn't know he was listening to. I didn't know the group was listening to. They were from Europe, and I was saying, let's look at it from the side. You look at Pollock from the side, and you see the topography of his paintings. And didn't know I was talking, but people started coming around me, and I'm not a trained critic, but I know, instinctively, I know what art is and should be for me. And the guy just stood there nicely. He didn't say, hey, what are you doing? He just let me talk. So art has always been in me. It's an innate quality. And it allows you to grow as a revolutionary too. Pity the revolution that doesn't have artists. Pity the revolution that doesn't have artists. Pity the revolution that doesn't have poets. Pity the revolution that doesn't have dancers. You need art. Look what's happened to the Soviet Union as a result of their so-called revolution in socialism. It's going nowhere. It's dead. Look at China. You may say China is thriving. It's not. I don't see any art coming out of there. And the few guys who did come out of there were put in jail. No, give me art. And when art really begins to bore into the DNA of a culture, they start arresting artists. Latin America knows. Latin America will arrest a poet in a minute if he gets too stupid. There was a gentleman in Chile during Pinochet's reign who they busted because his work was too revolutionary. I would that could happen here, right? Rather than the rappers talking nonsense, talking art and revolution. Well, they put him in a state, they imprisoned him, but he kept singing and playing the guitar. So they cut off his tongue. So he would just play the guitar. Art is the ultimate weapon of destruction of a fascist regime. It's the ultimate destruction of it. So for me, Tito Puente is as much a revolutionary as Malcolm is. Because when we came here in the 20s and the 40s and the 50s, Puente was there. He was right there. And he was the one that soothed our pain. Machito soothed our pain. Eddie Palmieri soothed our pain. There are many others, Machito. These are names that you should become familiar with because they are incredible artists in our culture. So the art is where it's at. And ultimately what we want is kids to feel that they can non-conform without being punished.
And so that kind of reminds me of like sort of another, I think, really significant part of the book is that throughout it, you're kind of always straddling two worlds, but doing so in a way that like doesn't see it as straddling. That's just like your life. That's you. That's also us.
Yeah.
Right? We are always straddling these different worlds. And I once again kind of see it in music too, where in the same breath you mentioned Tito Puente and Ornette Coleman,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
In the same breath, you mentioned sort of being Latino and being black. So how do you see that you've bridged those gaps?
It's a good question, but let me stand up. My knees are getting to me. I grew up in a Black Puerto Rican family that was proud of being black. I know that this is hard to understand for a lot of Puerto Ricanos who still haven't dealt with this in a real way. Dominicans are just getting to it. So give them time, give them time. Because when we came here, we didn't want to be black. My father, and I didn't understand this too much later, my father was a Black Puerto Rican. What that means is whenever he heard funk, whenever he heard blackness, he was attracted to it. He wasn't an Ellington man, he was a Count Basie man, if you know the difference. He wasn't an Ella Fitzgerald man, he was a Sarah Vaughan man. Makes a big difference. My mother liked the lighter side of things. She liked Ellington, she liked Ella. She would clean the house from Ella. She liked Frank Sinatra, that was wonderful. But my father, even though he was a cad, and he was definitively black in the art of his life. I grew up with black men. And what that means is you didn't have to beat people up to let people know you were strong, but you stood for something. I remember black men in the projects going down to meet these guys who were acting up with their children. And they would say, baby, why don't you calm down? Because if you don't, I'm gonna cut you to the white meat. And I remember some guys put that to the test. This is what I saw as black men. Put that to the test. And by the way, I don't know why black people don't love themselves. I look at them and I'm amazed at the size of some of these brothers. Have you seen them? When do we get these black, where do they come from? They used to just come from the South. Now these boys come from everywhere. They're huge. You see them on the basketball courts? And the way they have a way of telling people these are black men to say his athletic prowess. I can't stand when the sports announcers say that. It's black ballet, sucker. That's what it is. So on 116th Street, Lenox Avenue, there were a group of guys who used to bother these guys who came from the South. And in the old days, they had these pickup trucks and they come with watermelons, peanuts, and clams. And they used to come and bother asking for money. And he was from South Carolina too. And he used to tell them, listen, man, I ain't got no money. I'm coming here just to make some money. Just leave me alone. No, I don't want to mess with you. Man, and they would push him, never said anything. One of the guys was particularly provocative. And he told him, son, you have no idea who you're messing with. I will hurt you. Man, what you gonna do? The next day he came and we used to have knives on us called a peach knife. Looked like a single razor. And he did, in martial arts, we call it swallow style. It's like this. And he said, I told you not to mess with it. He grabbed a piece of water and he went like this. And before we knew it, this was white meat. They never messed with that man again. There are times that black men, black people have to show their force. We get scared of it. America's scared of it. That's why they were scared of the Panthers. Because at one point the Panthers said, you are not going to do this to me and I'm to stand here and take this? You must be out your mind. Why is it that when a black man, remember that guy in Washington, D.C., who took a gun and started shooting at people at random?
Right, and the boy.
It shook America up. Why? Because black people were shooting back. I'm not advocating violence, but I'm saying there's a point at which your core is challenged and you must do something about it if you want to protect your children. So I learned from that. But there's something about Puerto Ricans that's incredible too, and that's family. Black people had to learn this. When we came here, a lot of brothers would mess with these little 5'4" guys with high heels and pompadours, green pants and red shirts. We call them Marin Tigers. They were corny, they were too colorful. But the moment that brother touched that sister of his, the brother was as good as dead. And they would go to jail happy. Jodió con mi hija, so yo lo maté. I mean, they're serious about defense of family. And I think that comes from the Arabic in us. Remember, Spain was conquered by the Moors in 711. And after 750 years, they left. But it left us ingrained with a severe sense of family. I went to jail because I told the guys on my block in Bushwick at that time, I will fight with you to keep other gangs from coming in, but the moment you put your hands on my family, it's a wrap. I cannot explain to you the way I feel, why I feel this way. But the moment you put your hands on someone I love, it's over. My mother's Pentecostal and tried to keep me from killing this boy, but there was no way it was gonna, I didn't kill him, as it turns out, somebody else did. But he hit my brother, almost beat him into unconsciousness. And some of the other guys from another gang killed him. I would wish that there was a group called the Black Deacons of Self-Defense in Louisiana, the forerunners to the Black Panthers, who said, if the Klan comes into our town, we will shoot back. And they did. And it stopped the incursion of space. Folks, don't get scared of this. Why is it that we always associate violence with people who win? People who are on the bottom should fight too. And that's why we have problems right now. There is such a thing as inordinate violence. I have never seen a black guy stab, shoot more than once or twice. That's why it's so weird what's happening here. They're finding women with 22 stab wounds in their bodies. Something is wrong with our kids. Something is wrong. And do not expect for people to take the violence imposed upon them and not do anything about it, which is why I joined the Young Lords. The point that I'm trying to make is that I was raised with that kind of spirit. I love the way Puerto Ricans move. I love the way they dance. I love the way they kiss. I love the way they make love. I love their babies. Have you seen the recent Puerto Rican babies? They're so fine. They're so beautiful. I watch them all the time. I go up to them, their mother say, who are you? Who are you? I grab the kid's hand. The kid loves it. I see them as children. I see them as little people. I think personally Puerto Ricans are the most beautiful people in the world. They're gorgeous. We just have to know we're gorgeous. Our problem is we don't know it. My grandmother told me, you are the finest Negro I have ever seen. I grew up with that feeling. If you grow up with that for 10 years, you're not afraid of anybody. I'm fine. I know I'm fine. My grandmother told me, and I dared somebody to tell me, your grandmother's a liar. You know what that would do. Boy's as good as dead. The interfacing between black and Puerto Rican was effortless because we ate together, we slept together, I sleep in my boy's bed, he sleep in my bed. We went out with each other's sisters. It was an incredible coming together. I'd go into a black home and there'd be 3 cans on the stove, one with pork grease, chicken grease, and beef grease. You could smell it from the door, and you knew. The only thing I couldn't stand about black cuisine was chitlins. It smelled too much. But other than that, coño. Black people learned from Puerto Ricans how to cook collard greens with garlic. Because it used to be just collard greens, and it would be a little bitter. But we learned how to cook it with garlic. We've learned so much from each other. The problem that we're having today is that we're beginning to go into our little ethnic bubbles again. Black people, be careful. As you grow in power and influence, you must never forget the people you grew up with.
That's right.
You must include Latinos. And let me tell you why. Latinos are basically Native Americans. And once they get into power, they will not forget what you did. They have long memories. Be careful. I tell black people this all the time. And I don't trust black activists who talk about Pan-Africanism, but as soon as a Panamanian walks in the room and speaks Spanish, they look at him like weird. I don't trust people like that. If you're an African, you're an African around the clock.
Right.
Don't just come at me for one thing. When you meet Deep South, like Beaufort, South Carolina, the love that they issue is so incredibly all-encompassing. It's the same thing on the Lower East Side there, if you go there. It's an African village. You go there and you feel like you're home. The other thing that I must tell you is that having been around black poets, you learn the essence of blackness. There's a sadness there. The blues, yes, it's happy, but there's a sadness there. Let me tell you what I mean. I can go to Puerto Rico. It's not my home, but I can go there. Where can black people go? They can't go to Africa. That's not their home, really. It's their origin, but you're not going to go to Nigeria and replant yourself. They're existential beings. It's difficult to think that way. Jamaicans have Jamaica, Haitians have Haiti. Where do black people go? Think about it. So I love black people, and there's nothing they can do about it. And there are some black people who know Puerto Rican so intimately, they speak Spanish, they cook, they marry Puerto Rican women, and they dance. I just wish we had more. If blacks and Puerto Ricans and Dominicans got together in this town, we would run this town. Run it. But we have to be ready to let go of some of our shibboleths. Stop running and and think that we can get, this is my boy. We have to stop thinking that we run the world. Puerto Ricans are learning that they are not the only Latinos in the world. You feel me? Dominicans are coming. Hondurans, Guatemalans, Ecuadorians, Venezuelans, Cubans. We're not the only ones in the world. This man was my mentor, Rap Brown. He's now Imam Jamil El Amin, who took over the SNCC after Stokely Carmichael. And Stokely told him, I'm the intellectual. The guy who's coming after me is serious. Wonderful man. Got shot 5 times and wouldn't utter a word. He's still in the hospital. They won't let him out. Isn't it amazing they let all these other guys out? They won't let this guy out. He's an amazing organizer. Huh?
Him and Leonard Luther.
Leonard Peltier, yeah, from American Indian Movement. I don't know what it is about us that we don't see. And let me tell you, this is what I've learned from black people. I don't know why is it we don't see the specter of fascism in this country. It's here. Hitler is here. Don't have to look for him in the history books. He is here. And he's telling you he wants to be a dictator. And he's telling you he will, the first day he comes in, he's going to start looking for and send police. This is insanity. We have never been at this point in American history. Never. What are we going to do if this man is elected? All right, I'm going off the subject. I told you to keep me within the bounds, baby.
It's not easy. So my next question for you kind of brings us a bit forward into when you shift from the movement with the Young Lords,
Yeah.
with the Last Poets, and into Soho. And this is a two-part question. So the first part is, did you see East Wind as a precursor to your time in Soho? And what reprieve did Soho offer for you?
I was chairman of the Young Lords Party. We had already taken over the People's Church on 111th and Lexington Avenue. They broke my arm in two places, gave me quite a few stitches on my head. I had fought all my life. I fought in Harlem, I fought in Brownsville, I was in a gang. And I knew nothing but violence. I know you see a guy with a blue suit and a tie. I wish I could have been like Bentley when I was growing up. I didn't. It was and the worst thing about it, you had to fight brothers who were 6'2", and they were in the 6th grade. Do you know what I'm saying? So in those days, you took a butt whipping and didn't say anything about it. Just learned how to fight. The question was again? Because I'm dancing again. I'm dancing again.
So did you see East Wind as a
Oh yeah.
precursor to?
So I had been so used to violence. And let me tell you something. I was beaten as a child. I now know it was abuse. My mother was a frustrated Black Puerto Rican welfare mother whose husband had left her, who she loved. And I was the epitome of the man who left her. And so the beatings I got were horrendous. I've forgiven her, but man, these were horrible. It was a torture session. And she would use a belt and use the buckle. And she would aim it at my head or my testicles. She was afraid of me leaving her. She was afraid of me becoming a man. And here's the funny thing about it. She told me I had to be a man. Tú tienes que ser macho aquí. I have to take care of I can't raise these kids without you, she would say. But then when I would assert my independence, my manners, she would beat me because she wanted me to be a child. I didn't know that she was manic depressive. I didn't know it at the time. She would sometimes hold her head in her hands for a long time. But violence, constant violence, stifles the human soul. You become trapped in that. You look in relationships that are conflictive. You can't have peace. Peace scares you. You're insecure all the time. You're afraid of women. You're afraid of new frontiers, new horizons. You're afraid. Most of the times I fought, I learned in therapies because I was afraid. I was insecure. So when in the Young Lords, after the violence and after the gangs, I met Fred Brown and Peter Deshar, and theirs was an atmosphere of peace and art and aesthetics, I had to calm down. I had to realize that there is more than war. I may talk war, but I want peace all the time in my heart. And so when I went to the Village, this time to Soho, and I saw your dad's pictures, and I saw the way he looked at art, I began to calm down. I met de Kooning for the first time. Who's the brother with the stick images, the silhouette? Romar Bearden? The East Wind was the beginning of that. The East Wind taught me that you can do poetry. This is his father's work. This is called The Last Supper. That's me in the middle. I'm John the Baptist, I hope. Art saved my life. I want to go back to a theme. Be careful the way you talk to your kids. Be careful the way you talk to anybody, but be careful especially when you talk to young people. They are used to violence. They expect violence. And right now, they're punching women in the face. You don't think they're punching their mothers? You don't think they're punching their sisters? They're pushing people into trains. Not having a mother and a father can drive you insane. I don't know why people think that this is polycock. It's not. I wish my father had been there to take up some of the battles I had to do. He wasn't there. And I wish my mother didn't have to take on the role of man. So going to the East Wing and realizing that all I had to do was stand and read poetry to get that out of me, to get the demons out of me, because they were demons. The black church says, "Loose here, Satan. The blood of Jesus." And in a sense, they're right. I believe in war. I still do. And I have to calm myself down because I don't want to go to jail again. Every once in a while, one of these kids would jump in my face, "Man, who you? Who you?" And I'm saying, "Girl, I'm glad I don't have a knife on me." Probably couldn't use it anyway. I'm getting older and my bones hurt. But the rage is there, and I've got to calm it down. And now what I've learned to do is not be with people who are toxic. If you're with people who are toxic, you begin to, your self-esteem goes down. In my family, Pentecostal family, everything is a sin. Everything. Baseball, football, sex, especially sex. Everything is a sin. So you grow up with that feeling. Spare the rod, spoil the child. My mother used to say, oh, you talking back to me? The devil has entered this house. And she would go and get a garrison belt. Do you know what a garrison belt is? Huge, thick, wide belt. The motorcycle guys use it. And she would beat the hell out of me. Not understanding that she was destroying a mind. It took white teachers to tell me, not only are you bright, but you're brilliant. It took a long time for me to believe in myself. There are loads of Puerto Rican kids in the city like that. They're running the streets of the South Bronx. They're running the streets of the Lower East Side. We need more Bentleys. We need more young people who really understand and can sit down and listen to an argument about Gaza and Israel. We need critical thinkers. We don't have them. So the East Wing was my time. This was on 125th Street. And by the way, it was the precursor of all the rap movement, where I could just sit and rap and talk. And poetry. I like writing poetry because it's easier for me. It flows out of me differently. In fact, let me read you something. Let me read you something here. Bear with me for just 1 second. I am right next to the point of madness now, slipping through flurries of dreams, black, pushing past hazy visions of things I knew were real, black, jutting past the barrier of spiritual pain that has no definition, it just is black. Am I looking for the 60s? Am I looking for a clear, bell-like trumpet call to arms? Is it bebop I'm pining for, or the twist of a Cuban rumba stick on a fat-fingered palm so thick the smack he gives the congas gives life to rap new rhythms, not born yet but coming, not sung yet but seen, not talked about for fear your mama, yeah, your mama, will call the ambulance and blame it on the crack in your brain where the confusion ends, the convolutions begin. We are because we were. We will be because we are. The simple fact of the matter is you can't live without me, B. You can't love without me, C. You can't progress without the purplish, gold-toothed, hip-hopping, feeler-footed bloodline in Harlem, because in the end he thrives, survives on your rhetoric and bullshit programs for rehabilitation. Of what? To what end? And who said so? My mother says it's faith. How dare you contradict that? Faith in the unseen, faith in the mystery of brown babies talking Spanish real good and playing ball like magic, dunking silly concepts of education, coming from memorizers who will never, do you hear me, never understand what really happened between Sugar Ray and Hagler, who will never understand why Max Roach plays like he has 3 hands, why Mungo smiles when he punches your face with sound, why Puente will never really leave 110th Street, and why you keep coming back for more. You know what you feel? You feel what you think, and what you really think would make this country want to elect Minister Farrakhan for president tomorrow and love him for his restraint and civility. Because if those thoughts ever attain the stature of action, if aspiration ever evolves into achievement, we will see the beginning of the beginning. Paradise, rainbows, prophets standing together, praising God, speaking in tongues, healing by faith, and loving enough to put a stop to this madness called West. Talc, soft, baby, smooth dreams that speak softly but have big, ashy, bruising knuckles 3 stories high. Don't tell me about terror abroad. We got a pretty good movie happening right here, and colored people are given free admission. But we're getting tired of the same plot, getting tired of the same ending. Shit, why do we have to die all the time? The movies have gotten so good, we act out right in the street. Kill him, Bernie! Shoot him, Bernie! So what, I'm black. I'm tired of those niggas mugging me. I don't care anymore. Kill him, Bernie! And the drug boys shake their heads sadly because even they have more honor. It ain't about money, a Colombian told me. It's your word. What is our word? What do we really want? And do we believe we want it? It doesn't matter, black man, that you're not liked. What matters is that you like yourself, your lips, your hair, your nose, your fingers, your spirit, your mind, blood. It doesn't matter that they can't understand Spanish Puerto Ricans. What matters is that you understand what you're really saying and mean it and back the shit up. In the end, we, the children of jibaros and sharecroppers, we, the husbands of seamstresses and domestics, we, the wives of bus drivers and ministers, will direct this saga. And it'll be a multicolored, multi-spirited motherfucker of a spectacle. You can bet on that. And I can feel the pain of that birth right here, pressing against my forehead, pushing hard against my temples, aching my heart. But I've got to live this life, you know? The one we see every day, the little murders, the little assassins, the little paychecks, the full subway cars of pain, and I find myself right next to the point of madness. I mean, you know what I'm talking about? Tú sabes lo que te quiero decir. Ajá, pero bien cerca, real close to madness. Help me.
So, Felipe, I think maybe the last question I have for you, which may be just a simple question, but I think is important, is what drove you to write this book? Why did you feel like you needed to bring this out into words on paper?
Bentley, I had to get rid of the demons. Each of us has a dark side. Some of them are generational demons, some of the demons that we invite in. But there is something in all people of color, especially if they live in this country, that wants to destroy them. This whole thing about we are healthy, no, we're not healthy. If we were, we'd have been much farther along. We're achieving health. Therapy for me helps me. Being with good people helps me. I've met Jews who have actually loved me enough to see things in a different way. I had a teacher named Ethel Shapiro who told me one day as I was beating up a kid, she said, would you do me a favor? She was my 8th grade, and I adored her. I can't explain to you what a teacher can do to a young mind. I beat him. I just wanted to take him out. I don't know what he had done. By the way, all murder starts with humiliation. Did you know that? You feel humiliated. So I'm hitting this boy, stomping him, and she came up. She used to wear a shawl, and she said, Philip, give me the knife. I said, come on, Ethel. She said, give me the knife. I had a K-55. And she expertly folded it, put it in her pocketbook, and she said, get off of him. And so she said, take your knee off his sternum. I knew what it meant. He said, what's a sternum? He's under me. So I was already far ahead in terms of understanding what the English language is. She had already taught me Dostoevsky. Listen to this in 8th grade. In 8th grade, she taught me Dostoevsky, Hemingway, Gide, Camus. 8th grade, we're discussing Shakespeare and the universality of pain. I adored her. I would go around her and she was my homeroom teacher, so I would put my arms around her like that. And she would say, Philip, don't do this, because children are watching. I said, I don't care, tell me you love me. She said, I am not going to declare my love for you. I'm not going to do that. I said, well, then I'm not going to stop hugging you. She said, I want to send you to the boys' dean. I said, I don't care. I'm ready to go down. She said, okay, I love you. I said, no, you got to say it loud. She said, do you promise? Listen, what love does. Do you promise to take care of the class? Because she knew that everybody in the class would respect me. Make sure the class stays in line. I said, of course I will. And she would say, class, I love Philip. And everybody go, oh, shoot. Miss Shapiro taught me the beauty of the English language. I loved her so much that when I went to California, we had to leave because we were broke, we couldn't make it anymore. I missed her so much I would cry at nights. That's how much I missed this woman. I went to her funeral. I stayed with her till the very end. She was lovely. She would take me in the back room and she would say, I want to teach you something. By the way, I do not agree with what's happening in Gaza. I think the government, not the people of Israel, but the government has lost its damn mind. And she would take me, teach me Yiddish. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Eloheinu Yehud. Hear, O Israel, the Lord thy God is one. One. So I learned. She said, you have a protein deficiency. And that's why you're angry all the time. What the hell did that mean? She meant you're hungry. Let me take you to Yonah Shimmel's. Let me take you to wherever, so you can get some meat in your bones. I love that woman. And so, my point is that I began to learn from other cultures. And I had to grow. This book was a way of releasing the demons. Because I've been living with the Young Lords for 50 years, y'all. It's over. It's not, the war is not over, but that particular episode in my life is over. You gotta let go. Your kids feel it. My kids sat with me and said, Bobby, I am not you. I don't want to beat everybody up. When people look at me, I don't get mad at them. You get so paranoid, Daddy. I said, you left the door open. He said, Daddy, ain't nobody coming in here. If they look at, you know how, boy, black people are a trip. I'm ready to fight. No. Somebody did something to him, and he came to our house in the middle of the night. Daddy, and I just called my people over and said, let's roll. Let me tell you something about Puerto Ricans. All you have to do is call. If you know the real people, when do you want me there? I'll meet you on the 162nd and Grand Concourse. We'll be right there. Strapped. That's Puerto Ricans for you. Everybody knows that. And he said, no, Daddy, I really don't want you to hurt this person. And they had taken him off. This is my son. Tu estás loco. But it's what ended me up in jail in the first place. And as my daughter said, Daddy, I don't want you going to jail anymore. And when your daughter, with her daughter, says that to you, I almost began to cry. I said, Mommy, I won't go to jail. No, Daddy, listen to me. I don't want you going to jail. And I want you to stop smoking. Well, that's a whole nother thing. There is a point at which you have to let the demons go. In Spanish, we say despojar. Depossess yourself. Let those demons go. And try to become another person. I don't care what you went through in the beginning. For me, all I knew was violence. Now, I have to learn how to, there's a whole nother thing out here. These kids out here are crazy. So I'm always scared that I'm going to meet the person who's going to try to throw me off the, ain't nobody thinking about me, but they're throwing people into subways now. And so now all of that stuff in me is rising up again. And I have to be careful. Because I'm always defending someone. And as my brother says, Negro, the ones who interfere are the ones who get stabbed. I love this man here. And I pray I never have to see anybody hurt him. Because I know I'm going back to jail. I know it. It's just simple. This is my baby over here, Poochie. I don't want anybody messing with my children. Because you'd be in trouble. And let me tell you something. If you ever want an army that's loyal, go to Puerto Ricans. We're the most loyalist people. I told Mike Tyson that. I said, had you had Puerto Ricans around you, you would never have been put in jail. You would never have gone to jail. He had a Puerto Rican bodyguard around him. And they told him on that day, remember that girl that said he raped her or whatever it was? And he was told to leave. And he said he knew something was wrong, but that's when it happened. This group of people that I belong to, Puerto Ricans, and I would hope you would go to the island and soak it in, smell the sea, see the sand. We have no health system to speak of, because if we did, I'd be there living, I'd retire there. But Puerto Rico is 100 miles long by 35 miles wide. It is simply fabulous. And when I go there, with money, without money, I just sit back, drink some coffee, and listen to Spanish being spoken, and I'm in heaven. I am in heaven. I've taken folks there, and they say, how did your grandmother ever leave? But it was so poor at one time, there was no way we could handle this, so we had to come here to the United States and get beaten a little more. I wrote the book to exorcise the demons. I hear those voices inside, still there. Take that guy off, do this, do that. You need some money, man. All you do is drop a package here. Don't think that crime goes out of your mind because you're older. It doesn't. It doesn't. It's easy to drop a brick, do this, do that. And then I watch these things, the smuggler thing on the historical series, these guys getting busted in Peru and Ecuador. I don't want to go through that again. I don't want to go to jail again. I went to jail when I was 16, came out when I was 18, and I had to really be careful, because jail will destroy your spirit. But at the same token, I will tell you this, and I'll end with this. Jail saved my life. Sometimes we need to get away to come back in. I saw nothing. I was in Bushwick, Brooklyn. I couldn't talk to people about Hemingway. I couldn't talk to my mother about God, because she believed in a God that was vengeful, which is why I ended up getting a master's in theology. She was wrong. I had to find a way to come back to myself. And the reason I left television, let me tell you, I won 2 Emmy Awards. I was the first Puerto Rican anchorman for WNBC. I was a DJ with Frankie Crocker. RVR had the largest radio station in New York, the largest English-speaking radio station. The reason I did the book is because I realized at one point I could not continue to live on the adulation of you. I can't live on your praise. Felipe, what's happening? Can't. Who am I? When you're alone in your house, smoking cigarettes, by yourself, no partner, what do you do? Who are you? And I would suggest this for everyone. Think about that. In the end, who are you? What are you about? That's what it comes down to. Sorry, Bentley, for taking so long.
No, and thank you, Felipe. And I think, for us who have all, read the book or are going to read the book, it's a gift. So your sort of letting go is a gift to us. And I think especially today, when we live in such a time where our imagination is like given to us, it's really helpful for us to experience the spirit of imagination that's organic. And it's something that we can take with us, and it's a blueprint for how we move forward. So thank you. Oh yes, questions. We'll take any and all questions. Yeah.
Hi, Felipe.
Hi, baby.
Hi. I just want to tell you I love you so much. But I just want to ask, how long did it take for you to actually to write that book, and what was part of your process in writing it? I mean,
It took me about 20 years. Because I said that I was going to write it, and here's what artists do. There's something called procrastination. It has to do with fear. It has to do with fear. The fear keeps you from achieving your greatness. Each one of you in this room has the potential for greatness. You do too. Each one of you is thinking about what they can do to advance their careers and make money and do all that stuff. You have it. You have to believe in yourself, which means you have to be alone. I hate being alone. Let me tell you right now, I can't stand it. I know people who've been in marriages and relationships for years because they're afraid of being alone. I hear those ghosts. Why don't you go out and get high? Why don't you go out and, go to a bar and bacchanal? Why don't you do that? It's difficult being alone. But being alone presses you into a diamond-like consciousness where you have to do something. So for 20 years, I procrastinated. I wrote some things here, wrote some things there. And finally, it comes up on you. And by the way, do not be hard on yourself. I don't know why, as people of color, we're so hard on ourselves. I haven't achieved this, I haven't achieved that. And then we're watching the internet and comparing ourselves to these fools with mansions. It's not happening. There's iPhone addiction now? The brain stops developing after 25 years, but I can tell you right now, I still watch my phone instead of reading some meditation books in the morning, I get up and watch my phone. No, take it off. My friend, we couldn't reach you. We couldn't reach you. So what? I came here alone, I'm going out alone. Today my sister told me, I told you, I had a dream. Let me tell you, Puerto Rican families are a trip. I had a dream, she tells me. I had a dream and I saw you in a wheelchair. How inspiring is that? Bitch. How inspiring? I saw you in the wheelchair because you keep smoking and it's robbing oxygen. Yes, it's an addiction, Margie, I'm trying. I stopped the violence addiction, I stopped the cocaine. What are you doing? What are you trying to tell me? I just feel so badly. Because nobody's going to take care of you. Here she tells me I'm going to be in a wheelchair, but she's not going to take care of me. Come on, y'all. Or the mother say, voy a morir. This is another, my mother used to say, I'm going to die. I'm going to die. Jewish mothers say, I'm going to die, and they don't die. Herman, I'm going to die, but they don't die. Puerto Rican mothers say they're going to die, and to get back at their sons, they die. And the dope fiend comes there at the funeral. I see this all the time. Ma screaming. Mommy, I'm sorry, it's too late, man. She's dead. We have problems, and we're not willing to admit it. Our families sometimes can be restrictive. I would suggest to all of you here, if you have people who are toxic in your family, get rid of them. Tell them, I don't think so. Homie, don't play that. You gotta do that to your sister, it's your brother, could be your father, your mother, you gotta let go. I should be right now in Arizona. I should be in Hawaii. I should not be here. I love New York, it's wonderful. It's not good for me. It's so noisy and so dirty. People say, oh, I love it. I love it, Felipe. How could you say that? Stay here for another 20 years, 30, 40 years. I don't need this anymore. And that's when I know I've grown up. I don't need the noise. I go up to Mayor Park, which is about an hour upstate, and I'm telling you, the peace of nature surrounds me, and I'm another person. When I go to Puerto Rico, if you get 10 words out of me, it's a lot. It's time for me to relax. I'm 76, y'all. If I live another day, I'll be happy. I'm ready to just let it go. Swim, eat mango, mavi, and chicken. So, yeah.
Any other questions?
Yes. Yes.
It's so exciting to hear you talk tonight, so thank you so much. And I'm actually doing some research on Stan Lathan and
Oh, I love him.
Yeah. And so I'm thinking about that series that you did, Shades of Soul, on Soul.
Oh, yeah.
Where you brought,
Tito
you know,
Puente, Willie
Black
Colon,
and
Hector Lavoe.
Puerto Rican musicians
Yes.
together. And everything you're saying this evening about how New York could be different. I'm wondering, in that vision of Black Latino solidarity, collaboration, co-creation, can you model that to the West Coast at all with the Black Mexican?
No, it's very different.
I know it's different, but I'm just
And I'm
wondering
gonna
if
tell you
there's
why.
anything that you can guide.
I'd like to go
West
out there and help
Coast
them with that. I'd like to go out there. I offered a station in San Francisco my services in terms of doing a radio program. They didn't want it. There's a difference. The Caribbean has an African presence that is so strong that it's difficult to say we don't belong to each other. We are Congo, we are Nigerian, we are Dahomey, we are all of those things. Many of the slaves in Puerto Rico came from Ghana. So, you know, there's a whole different vibe here. And even though we don't want to admit we're black, and there are a few Dominicans who still say, yo no soy negro, I ain't black. And I tell them, then why is your hair so nappy? Nappy, nappy, who is your pappy? So, I don't know where the hell that comes from. That's crazy. How could you deny your blackness and you're looking straight at it? African cab drivers tell me I have black kids in my car and they say I'm not African. I'm black, but I'm not African. What the hell is wrong? We have lost our children. So I thank God for my grandmother who told me that Africa is your mother, Puerto Rico is your father. You dig? It's a difference. And by the way, that doesn't make me any less Puerto Rican. I believe in the independence of Puerto Rico. I believe that we have to fight for it. I think it's going to come down to violence. I don't think it's going to be any other way. But that's besides the point. Right now, we have a group of Mexicans whose land, listen, California, Nevada, Mississippi, New Mexico, Colorado, was all theirs. It was all theirs. And now they have to deal with other folks here telling them that they're the immigrants. Let me tell you something about Mexicans. Chicanos, if you will. If they stop coming, and I've told their leaders, just stop work. Stop the supply chain. And you'd be surprised at how America will fall to the ground saying, please come and pick the watermelons. Please come and pick the mango. Please come and pick the tomatoes. All you gotta do is stop it. Go for a few months without it and ask the world to give you money for the funds. They are the ones who are doing the work. I spoke to one white farmer. I was coming back from Iowa, and we started a conversation, and he said, you know something? Where are you from? And I said, my folks are from Puerto Rico, but I was born here. He said, well, maybe you understand this. Do you know I can't hire American kids to farm? They don't know the first damn thing about farming. These Mexicans come in, they know exactly how ripe the watermelon is, they know when to pick, they know how to pick it. I can't. I can't get black kids to do it, because we've lost that skill. So, folks, be careful. But Mexicans have a different aesthetic. Even though, yes, the old Mech head at the Museum of Anthropology is an African head, and yes, Africans were there before everybody, we know that. But Mexicans have a very different sense of who they are. And by the way, they will get to it at some point. At some point, they'll understand that being capitalist is not entree into American consciousness. It doesn't matter. They think that making money is going to do it. Not going to do it. They'll realize that they're brown, and that's about it. So I pray for them, and you must pray, and we had to keep trying. People travel Puerto Rico. It took a long time for black people to get us around to understand what was happening, but you had to love them into consciousness. You don't force people into consciousness. You love them into it. I'm sorry, I went off. Anything? Yes, sir.
Yes. Hi. Thank you for your wonderful talk. Dominican here.
Yes.
Born and raised.
Uh-huh.
Grew up in the United States.
Yes.
I was listening to you about 3 days ago, at 3 in the morning, and you had a salsa podcast.
Mm-hmm.
You were playing salsa. I happened to, I grew up with salsa, meaning I prefer salsa over anything.
Yes.
I was going to ask you about salsa and Latino culture. When I grew up in the Dominican, we looked up to New York. There's something going on there with salsa, Johnny Pacheco, and all these LPs were ending up there. We started listening, my generation, to Ruben Blades, Peter Conde.
Oh, my brother.
And yeah, a lot of people think salsa is music, and he said that salsa is a movement.
Yes, it is.
And it started up here in New York with the blacks and the Puerto Ricans as resistance. And you learn that listening to the words of the classic salsa, you know?
Yes.
And the Richie Ray calling babalaos and luas and keywords, you know?
Yes.
You say, they say, hey, it's no hey, hey, you know, they're calling somebody, like, come down.
Yes.
My question to you is, I meet young people on Washington Square Park in salsa nights.
Yes, I know.
And they love it. And I say, you know, this is 50 years old, this music?
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't know, I just love it, you know? My question to you is there any movement coming up? Because the salsa of today is not like the salsa dura.
Sí, sí.
And during the pandemic, I noticed something happening. I listened to Peter Conde, all his songs, and he got Pueblo Latino.
Sí.
Pueblo Latino, ha llegado la hora de la unidad, del estrechón de mano.
Sí.
In the subways,
Yeah.
people were swiping each other. People were telling, a lot of Latinos, not like, oh, you're Puerto Rican. The police is there, don't jump, you know, they're watching you.
Yeah.
That's disappearing now, post-COVID, meaning they're pushing us back to normal. But pre-pandemic, like 2018, 19, 20, 21, and during the pandemic, there was a lot of unity in this city. Now it's disappearing.
Well, I think that we have to make a conscious effort to establish alliances with Dominicans. And let me tell you why. Son la gente más trabajadora en esta ciudad. I've never seen a population that's dedicated to making money. I have to tell my barber from time to time, I remind him of his blackness. But in fact, I hang with them so much. Dice que yo soy dominicano. Because I hang with them so much. There's certain accents and inflections. They're wonderful people. What happened with salsa is that a lot of the people who popularized it and who formulated it died and grew out of it. They thought it was an episodic thing. Salsa is a movement. It's a lifestyle. Now the kids have taken over, and they're not inclusive. Salsa in the old days, mambo, was a all-inclusive movement. The Palladium had Jews, Italians, Irish. It was wonderful. So many unions, so many people I know who got married in the Catskills. Because that's when they went to dance. Went there, it's loved by Italians. Loved, adored. When I go to Long Island, the 5 towns, they said, did you bring the music? And these are Jewish, and by the way, their dance is kind of flamboyant. They do Hollywood salsa, but they dance their butts off. We need to, first of all, to your point, Papi, we need a unified movement here. We need a unified movement of blacks, whites, Jewish Americans, Caribbean. It can be done. We did it in the 60s, and I hope it's done again. I hope it's done again. José Alberto knows that. ¿Cómo se llama ese muchacho que viene de who talks about let it rain, que llora café, que llueve café. I love him. If you ever get a chance, pick him up. Juan Luis Guerra. He's a wonderful singer. So I hope it does happen. Any other questions?
I think.
Yes, sir.
Okay, this one's going to be our last one for the evening.
Thank you, because I'm
we have
ready
a
to
book
faint.
signing.
I'm signing books for those who buy them.
So I grew up in New York City in East Harlem when mostly Black American and Puerto Rican. It wasn't necessarily Black and Latino, it was Black American and Puerto Rican primarily.
Right.
And growing up, I had friends of all different shades from both lineages. And I'm just curious, how was the concept of race based on coming here versus Puerto Rico? As in here, you have the one drop rule from the darkest dark to the lightest light, you're still Black. And then coming in, and what kind of got my attention is, as a kid, I was trying to learn Spanish, so I'd watch Telemundo, and I'd see all these white folks speaking Spanish and no diversity.
Right.
And unfortunately, you look at it now, it's almost the same.
Yeah.
But basically, how was your concept in each culture as far as Blackness and race as a youth?
Well, you're right. It has to do with colonization. The British felt if you have one drop of black blood in you, you're Black. So it didn't matter how light you were. You could be octoroon, quadroon, mulatto, you were still Black. The Spaniards turned it around. I remember the Spaniards were the first to deal with real slavery here. And their position was, if you have a child, if I rape you and you have a child and your child has fairly straight hair, you're all right. You can pass. And we ran that game for a long time. Because we believe, well, tengo pelo lacio, ya. To this day, when I go into some barbershop, they say, well, tú tienes pelo bueno. My hair is as nappy as you. You have good hair. We still have those problems. But the Spanish, in a way, the Spanish were more insidious in their domination of us because they made us believe that we were their friends. When you read the history of the Spanish domination of Black folk, you will throw up. You think Django was bad? Horrible. Columbus comes to Puerto Rico, sees the Taínos coming. He explains in his chronicles they were the most beautifully shaped people. Their physiques were gorgeous. The women swam better than the men. He says, and with 50 men, I knew we could take them. He was thinking exploitation. He wasn't thinking how he'd like to live with them. They say the Vikings were there before Columbus and that they just were cool. They came, they left. But he was thinking exploitation. He was like, think about it. It is a European mindset in capitalism that does that. So that what happens is that we end up, when Puerto Ricans came here, they didn't know, the first thing they did is, yo no quiero ser negro. I don't want to be associated with them because they are pariahs. They didn't know they were going to get their asses kicked too. They didn't get it. By the way, the majority of Black Puerto Ricans reside in New York City. Why? Because they can't go nowhere else. Now, before we start talking about how impressed we are, Black Puerto Ricans have a particularly bad problem, because not only are they Black, but they speak Spanish. So it's very difficult for them. The citadel for Black Puerto Ricans in Puerto Rico is Loíza. The citadel for Black Puerto Ricans in New York is El Barrio. That's where they are, but a lot of them are moving out. Dominicans are moving in. What I'm happy is that Dominicans are beginning to develop a race consciousness that's beyond description. They wear braids, they're wearing African clothing, they're getting it together. It's going to take a little time. I think what we have to worry about right now is Haiti. I'm not caught up just in Puerto Rico, I'm concerned with Haiti. And the fact that we as Puerto Ricans and as Black folk are not talking about Haiti means we haven't grown up yet. Because if it's next door, it's going to come to you soon. Gangs controlling the street, beating people up, kidnapping them. Hey folks, this is serious business. And I don't see any major Black organizations here saying a damn thing about it. If you're Black, why aren't you saying something? The churches are not saying anything. The Black church gets me sick. And don't tell me how they're doing stuff for youth in this country. No. I love, what's his name? Bishop Turner, what's his name? The big guy. Jake. I love all of them, but what are they doing here? What are they doing for Haiti? When we have major movements, when we have major problems, I don't see big full-page advertisements. Again, I'm gonna go back to this, Papa. I'm glad you brought up in East Harlem. God bless you. I love the fact that you want to speak the language and are trying to get in. And by the way, folks, don't tell me how much you love Puerto Ricans and you don't have one Puerto Rican friend. Not one. And you don't bring him to your house. And you don't know his mama. No. I know all my friends' mothers. I know their children. I know everybody. That's the name of the game. Don't tell me how much you love Jews and you don't put one, you don't go to one Shabbos, you don't go to any of the synagogues. Come on, man. How can you say you love Islam? And by the way, Jewish people are not, Israel is not Netanyahu, okay? Can we make that clear? It's different. Don't tell me how much you love Islam and you don't go Salat. Go to the mosque. See what's happening. It's amazing. And by the way, women are treated better in the Quran than they are in the Bible. I'll tell you right now. All right, folks, I'm tired. I want to go home. Thank you very much.
I think we can do better on a round of applause for these incredible guests. Thank you. So we're going to have a book signing, but before we do that, I really, not to toot our own horn, but we are a very, very small center in terms of actual bodies with very big ideas. And the only way that that is able to be done on an international basis is because we have incredible leadership from our director, Dr. Deborah Willis, and an incredible staff. So today I want to thank our program manager, Khalila Abdur-Razak, who organizes every single detail of these events. And guests are not easy. Let me just tell y'all. These two were charming. The guests are not easy. Logistics are not easy. Scheduling is not easy. Flying people in from wherever is not easy. And our program manager has a big task, and she does it incredibly well. So thank you. I'd like to thank Sid Fulton, who actually precedes me at the center, at the Institute for African American Affairs, who has been a beacon and actually a real, because I graduated in 2020 and landed and started working here. Like my office was I defended on the 3rd floor downstairs and moved up 1 floor. So really taking this job during COVID and having a staff that was willing to show me the ropes really meant everything, because there was no office to learn from. So Sid, thank you. And our student workers, Imani is not here, but Stevia is. She's one of our students here at NYU. And so I want to thank you, because people think that there are like 20 people working here, and they're not. We're a small and very determined group, and we love what we do, and we love having you in the house. So thank you for coming. Yes.